Tavach, Afreil Chavach. Today was the Shabbos of song, and we were discussing this morning how when Mashiach comes, we're going to sing a song to Hashem. We don't know which song it is, but everyone said that the content of the song is similar to the song Niet Nikava. Niet Nikava is a Russian song, which means there's nothing besides Hashem, nothing that's higher than Hashem, nothing to be afraid of, because Hashem is the only one who's above all. So when Mashiach comes and we do sing that song, we'll have a similar experience, I think, to, not just I think, but the Rebbe said that Mashiach comes will somehow justify all the suffering and all the pain the Jewish people throughout history. When we sing that song with the coming of Mashiach, we'll see the goodness and sweetness of the resurrection of the dead and the coming of Mashiach and the temple in Yerushalayim. Somehow all of the suffering and all of the anguish that the Jewish people experienced will somehow be justified by the incredible greatness of the glory and the goodness and the majesty and the happiness and the beauty of the coming of Mashiach. So it's similar to when the Jewish people crossed the Red Sea, and they also sang a song to Hashem after the tragedy of being enslaved for so many years. So they sang the song to Hashem after all that hardship. So this idea of Hashem showing us something and having a whole different perspective because of seeing something incredibly good and how that somehow justifies what happened in the past. Even before Mashiach comes, I'm sure each of us could think of events in our life that we didn't really know at the time how they could possibly be beneficial, how they could have any, how could they turn out to be good. But actually, those events themselves were actually turned out to be something that incredibly positive. There was a man from Soviet Russia who was living in Soviet Russia and during the very difficult times a few decades ago. And Rabbi Beryl Levy of the OK Kashrus organization, because of his work in Kashrus, he was allowed to visit Soviet Russia and bring things into Russia, take things out of Russia. And because of that, he had many missions. And the Rebbe entrusted him with to bring various things, like if someone needed a pair of tefillin, needed a prayer book. So whenever he would go to Russia, he would not only bring things into Russia, but he would also video people in Russia and share the video with the Rebbe, so that the Rebbe could interact with them through this video. They had sort of a private audience with the Rebbe through video, even though it wasn't live, it wasn't, but the Rebbe would watch the video and the Rebbe responded to Rebbe Beryl Levy. There was one video he showed the Rebbe, if I remember correctly, this video was published by Gem. He shared with the Rebbe a group of Jews asking the Rebbe for various blessings. And one gentleman says this to the Rebbe. He knows that he tells the Rebbe, I know that I won't be able to, I can't see you right now, and I can't communicate with you right now, but I would like to. And I may never see you. I may never be able to leave Russia. But I want you to give me a song so that when I sing this song, I will know that you're with me and I'll have guidance and I'll have connection to you through this song. So the Rebbe watched this video and completely overwhelmed with emotion and crying and crying. And Rebbe told his secretary, told the Rabbi Beryl Levy to tell this man to sing the Nigun of the Alter Rebbe, the Nigun of the 4 stanzas, the special song we only sing on special occasions, like by a wedding or on Yud Shvat and Teskilsev. Rarely throughout the year we sing this special song. So this song brings you to that told this person that he'll sing this song and be able to be there. Similar story of the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab told another chassid, also he had no way of reaching out to the Rebbe to speak to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe Rashab told him that he should go to the mikveh and he should send a letter and sing this nigun and sing this song. Um, Rabbi Reichik Al Shalom was fond of sharing the following story. There was a chassid of the previous Rebbe who, of course, during World War II, it was impossible to send letters. And the previous Rebbe asked him, how come he never reached out? He was going through all kinds of hardship. And he told the previous Rebbe, how should I have reached out? I mean, there's no way to send letters. So the previous Rebbe said, you could have said, Rebbe, help. Just the chassid thinks the Rebbe, because of the soul connection, there's something that is responded to. So on that note, there's a beautiful teaching I just heard from the Rebbe about Shimon and Levi. Maybe familiar with how Shimon and Levi went to destroy the city of Shechem after their sister Dinah was raped. So the Torah says that Yaakov, their father, was not happy with what they did at all, and he rebuked them for it, and they had their reason why they thought it was okay in defense of their sister, whatever it was. But there's one line in the account of Shimon and Levi which seems to defy explanation. It's very mysterious. It says Shimon and Levi. Why did they go to Shechem and destroy the city of Shechem? They're two guys destroying a whole city of Shechem. How'd they have the gall to go for that challenge, to fight an impossible battle? So Rashi says, "Betuchem hayu." They were certain in the prayer of Oisa Zakin, of that elder. They were certain that with the power of their father Yaakov, of that elder, that they would be successful. In the power of their elder, they were certain that they would be successful. Now, their certainty seems to be a little bit off, because Yaakov didn't even know that they were going. Yaakov, when he found out what they did, he was actually against what they did. So, what is the what was the source of their certainty? So we see from this, the Rebbe says that a chassid can connect with the Rebbe even when the Rebbe hasn't given him specific instructions. Even without direct instructions from the Rebbe, there's still a bond there, there's still a connection there, even though it's not conscious and it's not, nothing was related, and Yaakov wasn't aware. He actually wasn't aware. And I mean, the Torah says that Hashem doesn't tell a prophet everything. So there's some things that a prophet does know, some things a prophet doesn't know, and yet they were still connected to their father, and with the power of their father, they did this mission. So, on that note, I wanted to tell you an incredible story. This story I've heard the story in different versions, and I didn't actually believe the story, and I never shared the story before because I didn't really have a source for it. And when you don't have a direct source, it's hard. It's a story which you're when you hear the story, you're certain like it can't possibly be true. But the Kfar Chabad magazine just printed letters from various Hasidim from the 1950s, right after the previous Rebbe passed away on the 10th of Shvat. Right after that period, and people were beginning to learn about our Rebbe, so there were letters from the various students that they shared first-hand accounts of what was going on in 770. So this story that I've heard different versions of is shared there, and I'll share it with you. But just to open up our ears and our hearts and minds to hear that story, I'll tell you another story, which I think will help the other storyline better. Rabbi Shalom Ber Lipsker, Olav Shalom, who just passed away half a year ago. Shalom Ber Lipsker was living in Miami, Florida, Mill Harbor, where the Rebbe had sent him, and he was very successful in his mission over there in Bell Harbor. But on one occasion, in the 1970s, he had to be hospitalized to do a certain procedure for a heart murmur. So at that time, he lived in a street called Meridian Avenue, which was 3 blocks away from the hospital. And he had this procedure done. This procedure required general anesthesia. So when the procedure was finished, his wife called the hospital. How's my husband doing? And so the they told her that this procedure was successful. He's in recovery. You can go see him. So instead of going to see him, she first just wanted to call his room and see if he's awake. I'll just call him on the phone. She calls the phone, and no one answers. But he was then in a room with another gentleman. The other gentleman picks up the phone, and he says, "Hi, this is so and so. Oh, I wanted to speak to my husband. Oh, your husband's sleeping." She says, "Can you please wake him up?" So he tries to wake him up. He doesn't wake up. So the guy, she says, "Something's wrong. He's supposed to be awake now. Please call a nurse." So he calls a nurse, and the nurse tries to wake him up too. And this time at this time after the procedure, he's supposed to be awake already, and he's not awake. So the nurse makes a code blue. Code blue, everyone comes in, and Rabbi Lipsker is in some kind of coma. And they tell by this time she ran over to the hospital. She runs into the room, and the doctors tell her she has to leave. It's code blue. They have to take care of this. They have all kinds of paraphernalia to try to revive her husband. And she goes to the nurse's station and says, "I need to make a long distance phone call." She makes this long distance phone call to the Rebbe secretariat. She gets on the phone and she speaks to Rabbi Chadakov, the Rebbe's chief secretary. No nonsense, straight truth. Very, very, you'll hear. She tells Rabbi Chadakov, "My husband went through a procedure, the operation, and the Rebbe knows about it, and he has not, and he got a bracha for the operation, and he hasn't woken up, and the doctors are trying to resurrect him now because he's not waking up, and they're concerned, very concerned that his life is really in danger." Kharikov asks her to how he can call her back, and calls back. Kharikov calls back and says, "I need to speak to your husband." She says, "Rabbi Kharikov, did you hear what I said? My husband is in a state of coma. He cannot hear you, and he's not available for conversation. I don't know what you mean by getting him on the phone. He's not awake. Don't you understand? Can't you hear what I'm saying? Don't you understand?" And she was very assertive, especially when something so serious was going on. So she's like, "Do you understand what I'm saying?" Rabbi Kharikov was also no slouch, equally assertive. And he says to her, "Did you hear what I said? I have directions from the Rebbe to speak to your husband. The Rebbe has a job for him." When she heard that, she calmed down because she thought, if the Rebbe has a job for him, that means he's going to live. He has something to do. So she decided she's going to go back into the room. They asked her to leave, but she's going to go back into the room. And she arranged for the Rebbe's secretary to call the room. It was before cell phones. Call the room, and she put the phone next to his ear. Rabbi Lipsker said the story, and he said the first thing he remembers hearing was Rabbi Chadakov's voice. At that time, Professor Herman Branover, who was a candidate for a Nobel Prize because of his pioneering in the field of magnetohydrodynamics. He had just been released from Soviet Russia. He was a refusenik. They didn't want to let him leave. But with a ransom of whatever it was, he eventually was able to get out of Soviet Russia. And the Rebbe wanted Professor Branover to be in touch with other professors in his field to develop connections and to grow. It's a story in itself. But Rabbi Chadakov gets on the phone with Rabbi Lipsker. Remember, Rabbi Lipsker is in a coma. Rabbi Chadakov says, the Rebbe said that you should call the university in Winnipeg to organize a reception for Professor Herman Branover when he visits. And Rabbi Lipsker said he could hear the Rebbe's voice in the background telling Rabbi Chadakov what to say to Rabbi Lipsker. So he's on a tour in North America. He's going to go to Miami. He's going to go to Canada. So Rabbi Kharkov tells Rabbi Lipsker, once Professor Branover gets to Miami, he should make sure that he's put in contact with the proper scientific resources, fellow physicists, give him the most exposure. And with that, Rabbi Lipsker woke up. He mumbled a few questions, that was it. When he repeated to his wife what had just happened, she was beside herself disbelief. Apparently, Rabbi Lipsker had something to do in this world, and he didn't need to leave. And the Rebbe brought him back to this world through the channel of why he's here. He needs to do something. Professor Branover is coming to Winnipeg. He's going to Miami. So Rabbi Lipsker he's in touch and go, but the Rebbe connects him to his life and to his mission, and therefore revives him. That's the intro story to share with you the story that I wanted to share with you. So Rabbi Shalom Ber Nemanov wrote this letter to Rabbi Beryl Shem Tov in 1950, right after the previous Rebbe passed away. And it's hard to imagine the kind of lack of awareness, lack of understanding of the Rebbe's greatness at the time. The Rebbe had just become Rebbe, a small minyan in a small group of people. This is what happens. Rabbi Krinsky, and Gesundner Stark, may live and be well, is one of the Rebbe's secretaries. And in 1950, he was originally from Boston, and he meets someone who tells him the following. He says, "You remember that boy in yeshiva, Avram? Well, Avram was beaten up, and he's now in the hospital, and he's unconscious. He's in a coma, and so he's already like this for days, for 3 days, and he is and no one knows what to do." So Rabbi Krinsky visits this boy he knows from Boston in the hospital. This boy had learned in yeshiva in 770. He visits him in the hospital, and he sees a guy is like a stone, no reaction whatsoever. So he right away calls the Rebbe's office. The Rebbe told Rabbi Krinsky to do the following. He should immerse himself in a mikveh, he should go to a mikveh. He should go then to the hospital to this boy, and he should tell him that he was mentioned in prayer by the Tzion, by the holy resting place of the previous Rebbe, and he should say the words of the Minor Lashon. There's a certain prayer book that's used at the resting place of the Ohel, and so in that book, there's a line that mentioning in prayer this person by Kvei Kedushas, by the honor of His Holiness, our master teacher Rebbe, the previous Rebbe's name, the son of the Rebbe Rashab's name. So Rebbe said that he should tell this person he was mentioned in prayer before the Rebbe, say the previous Rebbe's name, and then say the son of the Rebbe Rashab's name. Rebbe Krinsky did exactly what the Rebbe told him to do. And he's still lying down with closed eyes, no reaction. So Rebbe Krinsky says, "Avram, can you hear me?" So Avram quietly responded, "Yes, I can hear you." And a few minutes later, he opens his eyes, and he's already getting better. That's what Rabbi Neman writes in this letter. And a few days later, Rabbi Krinsky was in an audience with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asks, "How is this boy doing?" And the Rebbe started to chuckle. And Rabbi Krinsky answered that Baruch Hashem is doing better, but he's in a great danger. And he was in great danger before, but now he's doing better. So Rebbe responded, "Kol's man in neshama is in guf is the almon sakana." As long as the soul's in a body, you're always in danger. That's what Rebbe responded. He said he was in danger, now he's better. Rebbe said, as long as the soul's in a body, he's in danger. So, Chassidus talks about the birth of the Baal Shem Tov. Chassidus says that after Bogdan Chmelnytsky in the 1650s murdered hundreds and thousands of Jews, the Jewish people were in a state of faint. And Hashem revived the Jewish people. How did he revive them? He gave the Jewish people the soul of the Baal Shem Tov. By giving the Jewish people the soul of the Baal Shem Tov, it revived the Jewish people. Baal Shem Tov taught everyone how special it is for a Jew to say Baruch Hashem and to thank Hashem, and how special our faith is and how precious it is to Hashem, our prayers and our words of Hashem, and how every Jew can reach the highest levels of attachment to Hashem. Baal Shem Tov revived the Jewish people. He woke everybody up from their state of absolute faint. So Chassidus says the reason why the Baal Shem Tov was able to do this was because it's analogous to what Chassidus explains what to do when someone faints. Chassidus says, Chassidus is not really talking about what to do. Chassidus uses this as an analogy. Chassidus says when someone faints, what do? You say their name. When you say their name, you revive them. Why do you revive them? Chassidus says because by saying their name, the person faints, their soul energy sort of retracts back to their core. And when you say their name, you're like summoning their energy from their core back to their body. That's when someone faints, you say their name and you revive them. That's what Chassidus says. So Chassidus says also about the Baal Shem Tov, that God, so to speak, whispered the name of the Jewish people. The Baal Shem Tov's name is Yisrael. So by God sending the soul of the Baal Shem Tov to the world, so this revived the Jewish people. He sent us the soul of the Baal Shem Tov. There was the how he did it. He did this by telling everyone how special they were, and how telling them Chassidus and revealing the inner dimension of the Torah, and that touched the soul of the Jewish people. And that's true. But the stuff it was made of was because Baal Shem Tov is his name is the name of the Jewish people, and that's why his soul was like God, soul being brought to the world. Chassidus says is like God whispering our name. That's what Chassidus says. So on that note, based on that, it seems to me that this is the same story. This guy is in a state of faint, and the Rebbe doesn't say his name. It says say the previous Rebbe's name, the previous Rebbe's name, the son of his Rebbe Rashab's name. Why? I'm just making this up. This is a conjecture. Because just like the Baal Shem Tov, since the Baal Shem Tov is the name of all the Jewish people, he's the leader of the generation. So his name revives the Jewish people. So just like your own name revives you, so the name of the Rebbe revives you as well. Because the Rebbe is as the Rambam says, Maimonides says, why is there a mitzvah that a king cannot marry too many wives? Says the Rambam, because the king is called the heart of the Jewish people. Because he's the heart of the Jewish people, therefore he has to make sure that his heart is not swayed in the wrong way. So Rabbeinu Tam writes in Sefer HaYashar, words that come from the heart enter the heart. The Jewish people are studying the Torah all the time. The Medrash says though that Jews are like fish. When they are in the water, fish are in the water, they're constantly around their life force. The water is their life force. But nevertheless, when it rains, the fish rise to the surface to get the new rain, the new water that comes from heaven. So too the Medrash says, when there's a new teaching of Torah, the Jewish people are very excited. Although they're always around Torah, the Torah is their life force, Torah is their water, Torah revives them. But new Torah comes from heaven, they go to it. So in a similar way, just like Rabbeinu Tam says, words that come from the heart enter the heart. Words that come, new words of Torah that are revealed by the tzaddik generation, they resonate differently. They reach a different place. Words that come from the heart of the Jewish people enter the heart. Rav Nachman of Breslov gave the following parable to explain the unique nature of Hasidic teachings. He said that in his time, the best wine in the world was in Hungary, and every king had a storage of the best wines in some cellar in Hungary. And there was one guy who was a bit of a shmendrik, Yankel the Shmendrik, who was working for one of the king's top ministers, and the top minister had to go to get the king's wine, and he brings his Shmendrik, Yankel the Shmendrik, come with me, I need you to help slap boxes with me, we're going to Hungary. They go to Hungary, and they get the boxes, and Yankel the Shmendrik tells his superior, would you mind, I'm doing all this work, can I just have one cup of wine from this Hungarian royal wine? He has a cup of wine. Wow, such wine. Psst, unbelievable. Years later, one of Yankel's friends Tells Yankel, you know what I have? I managed to get a bottle of wine from Hungary, the Hungarian wine. Really? He tastes the wine and says, Feh, this is not the wine of Hungary. I've tasted the wine of Hungary. Years have passed, but I know what the wine of Hungary tastes like. In a similar way, there's something unique about learning teachings from the Moshe Rabbeinu, from the tzak of the generation. The words that come from the heart, words that come from the tzak generation, his words uniquely enter the heart of every Jew. The Rebbe's instructions to us, the Rebbe's words to us, they resonate differently. As the previous Rebbe said in his Maimer in Basi Lagani, that Hashem gives the Jewish people at the end of the exile unique strength. The previous Rebbe said when there's a war to be fought, the king gives his soldiers, he takes the storage houses of treasures the king has, and he gives them away freely in order to empower his soldiers to do what they need to do. All the king's treasures come out. The soldiers need to go to battle, and everything's released for the sake of the battle. So in a similar way, Hashem gives us special strength, but to bring Mashiach, to win the war, to make it actually happen, we get unique strength. And the unique strength we get, especially, is through the teachings and instruction of the Rebbe. On one advertisement before I continue and conclude, this coming Tu B'Shvat is the day when the Rambam will be concluded. And by one of the best ways to channel the Rebbe's blessings, especially for health, is by studying the Rambam. There are 83 sections in the Rambam, the 14 books of the Rambam. On the 613 mitzvahs, there are 83 sections, and 83 is numerically equivalent to the word disease. We just read in the Torah today, God promises us that all the disease that I put upon you in Egypt, I will no longer put upon you, because I am God who heals you. So the best way, the Rebbe says, to receive the cure for all diseases is the 83 kinds of disease represented by the word disease, by studying the Rambam. That's one of the great ways to receive strength from Hashem, to be guidance in life. My mind is just called the guide to perplexed. So if you haven't started studying Rambam, now's the time to jump on the boat. There's a new cycle starting, and you have to wait till the new cycle. You can start from today and get on the bandwagon, which is not just Rambam, it's the stuff that's in there. Anyways, getting back to this story, I think that in addition to all of the teachings that we learn from the Rebbe and how they channel special strength, there's something also about the name of the Rebbe. Just by saying the name of the Rebbe, just like saying the name of anyone's, it revives them. Since the Rebbe is the Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, saying his name also connects the soul of every Jew and therefore revives the Jew. It highlights and accentuates a connection between the heart and the limbs of every Jew. Bottom line is, we got to win this war. We got to make it happen. We got to bring Mashiach. And the way to make it happen is by connecting to the Rebbe, learning the Rebbe's teachings, and especially what's relevant today, strengthening ourselves in the study of Rambam. That's what I wanted to share tonight. Any questions, comments, tomatoes, cucumbers?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Huh?
Is the reason why you said the that story with the guy in the Rebbe Rayat and the Rebbe and the Rebbe Shrav is because it's what's Rebbetzin Shter Sarah's yahrzeit today?
I know you will hold over. You just wanted me to say today's Rebbetzin Shter Sarah's yahrzeit, and the yahrzeit of Tzadikis channel salvation in the world, and we should mention it and we should talk about it.
Well, it's serious. There's a reason why. There's the reason why you mentioned. Maybe it's a hidden reason. Baruch HaKodesh.
All right. A good Devach, a freilich Devach, good Devach,
Amen.
Good Devach, a Mendel, good Devach, a Machol, good Devach, a Baruch, good Devach, a David, good Devach, a Beryl, good Devach, Moshe Ruven. Wow, we have a star with us online. Moshe Ruven is joining us. Wow, exciting. You know who Moshe Ruven is? One of the top figures of Jewish music today. All right.